Hello, and a very warm welcome to episode 290 of the Total Saints podcast, your home for all things Southampton Football Club. A huge thank you to our TSP Patreon community because we couldn't make the show each week without your support. Coming up this week on the podcast, Saints were denied a first Premier League win of the season by an injury time equaliser against Ipswich. But as always, it was the missed chances that cost us. We'll look back at a deflating afternoon at St Mary's. We did manage a win midweek on penalties at Everton in the Cup. We'll pick over the highlights, which, to be fair, won't take long. And it's our first taste of Monday Night Football when we head along the coast of Bournemouth next week. We're going to preview that game for you. My name is Martin Starke, and I'm joined this week by Steve Grant, who is the owner of Saints Web. Glen Cour is writer of the blog League One -10, and Alfie House is senior Southampton reporter for the Daily Echo. There's a lot to get through, so let's get into it, shall we? Control the game, don't take our chances, and it ends up costing us. It's the same old story every week at the moment. A 95th minute equaliser, which seemed somewhat inevitable. To help us review the Ipswich game, I'm delighted to say that Paul Castle's joining us. Paul, I'm going to describe you as a patron, a fan, a supporter of the podcast. Anything I've forgotten? All-round good bloke?
A Saints fan. to my heart.
We'll go with Saints fan. We'll get to you in just a minute. Yeah. So thank you for joining us. Steve, it's the first point, but to be honest, it did feel like another defeat, didn't it?
Yeah, a bit of a blow. But I think, I mean, you look back at the losses that we've had prior to that, and you could kind of pinpoint a moment where everything went wrong. Whether that was a substitution, one sloppy mistake, this sort of thing. And actually, we were kind of fine. The first half was actually the area, the part of the game where we kind of played the worst, and yet we got ourselves into the lead and also hit the woodwork. But second half, having got pretty much control of the game, really, Ipswich didn't really throw anything at us that we didn't feel entirely comfortable dealing with, and then suddenly a shot that's going straight at the goalkeeper flicks off the arse of Joe Aribo and finds itself right in the top corner. It's just the way things are going at the moment. It's kind of unfortunate, probably preventable if you're being hypercritical. I think when always think when you've got all 11 back for any set piece. I mean, I know every professional team does this for corners, just as a matter of course. And I'm sure there's some sort of tactical logic behind it. But surely you leave someone at least on the edge of the area for that sort of knockdown when the cross comes in. If a defender does win the first ball, if the ball's going in that area, you want someone there, because if the attacking side's got someone there, then it's basically a free shot. I mean, there must have been 6 players running at him, but none of them were able to get there in time. And ultimately, that has cost us 2 points, which, I mean, I think that would have put us, 15th? Such is just the ludicrous nature of this, the start of this season, where, I mean, you've now got 6 teams without a win after the first 5 games, which is the first time that's ever happened in Premier League era, certainly. Which suggests that, I mean, for everybody saying that we're kind of dead and buried after 3 games, no, I mean, there's a lot to play for this season. And what I saw yesterday, I think, was pretty encouraging in terms of the number of chances we created. That midfield trio looks excellent.
Yeah.
The only problem is that Adam Lallana's not going to be able to play more than probably 65 minutes every week.
Yeah.
And it was, we lost a little bit of control when he went off, but not enough that it damaged us. I didn't think. I thought we were still well in control, but we didn't quite have the same sort of dynamic ability to play between the lines, because his movement and his confidence to play those little passes in tight spaces, we don't really. Les Ogachukwu doesn't really have that yet. May develop that over the course of the season, but yeah, it's just not quite there when he's not on the pitch, and it's fascinating actually, given that, I mean, he's had 2 starts in the space of a week, but probably hasn't started a game since April. And yet he basically ran that game for an hour. I thought he was superb. Him and Dibbling were head and shoulders above everybody on that pitch for an hour or so. And I think ultimately we needed to be 2 up. I mean, if we got that second goal, and we had the chances for it. There was no way Ipswich were coming back from there. They were crap, and unfortunately, we've once again let them in the back door at the last. Very, very frustrating, but just hope it doesn't kind of deflate people.
It's what hurts even more, doesn't it? It's the manner of the defeat, or manner of the dropping the points so late on, wasn't it? Glenn, it was, it was the perfect start, really. That ball from Lallana, only he would spot that and play that. Great finish from Tyler Dibbling. It was the stuff of dreams, really, that first sort of 5 minutes.
Because we'd spent. I mean, it was against the run of play, if anything, if you can have against the run of play after the first 5 minutes, because Ipswich dominated the ball to start with, and they were more physical than us, and I think that certainly helped them, especially in the first half. And it took us to half time to get to grips with it. But to score that early on is something you're never really expecting, certainly from this team. And it was good play all round, because it wasn't just Lallana's pass; it was Fraser closing down a clearance, I think, and then Fernandez kept the ball alive. Lallana's pass, and Dibbling made it look so easy, but there was a lot to do, because it was the way he took the ball sort of like on his back foot away from the defender.
First touch was incredible.
Touch. Yeah, it was. It's just a superb finish. The whole thing there. So to go 1-0 up should have been the springboard to go on and win it. And as Steve said, we created a couple of chances, but unfortunately got unfortunate with the one where Cameron Archer hit the post. Possibly could have taken it before he took the last touch around the keeper and tried to lift it, but he tried to do that in the second half and hit the keeper. So win some, you lose some, depending on your choices. So I mean that's the worry is how many goals we're going to score. And I think if you were a neutral watching that game, you'd be watching two sides and thinking neither have quite got the quality up front to survive. I think we've got quality all over the pitch. Thought the defence played well. All over the rest of the pitch, rather. Thought the defence played well. Back four looked very solid. Charlie Taylor, I thought, did well defensively. Harwood-Bellis had obviously his best game of the season in a back four where he has to take more responsibility. Thought they were all good. It's just I think both Saints and Ipswich are going to struggle to score enough goals unless something clicks or someone suddenly, finds a new level and manages to knock in sort of 10 to 12 goals over the season. So, but it was very nice to score the opening goal and that early. And I honestly thought we'd done enough. Because Ipswich had done nothing until 94 minutes. But Ipswich are going to keep going to the end. And
it was their hallmark last season, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I sit directly behind that post. And when he hit it,
as soon as he hit it, you knew, right?
Yeah, as soon as you hit it, well, the first it happens in slow motion, doesn't it? And you kind of think Ramsdale's saving that because he'd seen it all the way, and then it takes a deflection, and it's just like it's horrible, absolutely gutting to see that hit the net. And but there you go. That's the margins in the Premier League, and we've got to get used to it quickly.
I'm going to ask you in a minute, Alfie, about Kyle Walker-Peters, because that was the talking point before the game. Paul, your thoughts on the game yesterday? Have you seen enough this season, or as a fan, are you a little bit worried like the rest of us?
Well, I can't lie. I'm concerned, and annoyingly, because I don't watch Match of the Day if we lose or don't do too well. So I didn't actually know until this morning that there was a deflection from where I was sat right over the centre line. It just went in. I just thought he hit a worldie. So when my son told me that it actually was a deflection, it was like, oh, for God's sake, that makes it worse. I gather from what I've now seen that Ramsdale had it covered. I don't know whether and you confirmed from where he was. So that now I've found that out, that makes it even worse. I just felt, apart from that first 20 minutes when we couldn't get out of our own penalty area. I just thought, Jesus, where's this going? Having scored a goal. But then gradually, I felt we got control. I thought Fernandez was absolutely outstanding. I can't believe how good that kid is. Definite upgrade on Alcaraz. And I love Charlie. I really did. But definite upgrade. But then I just thought, like Glenn said, I just felt, yeah, we've done enough. We're going to see out. We're going to see out. And I sat next to my son and I said, yeah, going to be okay. And then because the ref sort of blew the whistle not long before the final whistle, everybody around me just emptied. And I just thought, we're winning 1-0 and you're just leaving. What is going on with these people? But that said, then there felt like 7 minutes. Oh, they felt the inevitability. But I don't know whether it's me that spotted it or you've probably seen it. I just felt that the previous corner to the corner where the goal was scored, they tried that sort of clever little move where and no one was on the edge of our box to run out. And it felt like we'd had the warning and then it did it again. And I just thought, why didn't we spot that and run out and just have one person on the edge of the box? Could have gone anywhere. But I think we were so pleased that Ramsdale had tipped that one over the bar. It was almost like, oh, we've done enough. We've got over the line here. But nah. But a second goal going in, I don't know why Archer didn't shoot first time round. 2-0 up, I think we would have been okay.
Yeah.
But disappointing, and also sort of disappointing all these people around me. The negativities, shouting at people and whatever. But we all get frustrated, and we want to sort of do well. But equally, I just thought, why do people leave before the game's ended when you're supporting the team?
Age old question, that one.
Yeah, I think
I'm
it was
sure
the
players. Well, I'm sure the players don't see that, but equally, nervousness goes around the ground, doesn't it? So you say, "Oh God," you get, "Oh, come on."
Well, Russell Martin was talking about the anxiety in the team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So that anxiety
And the
that kind of
crowd.
kicked in, and the crowd, and he's talked about tension before, and that nervousness, and it definitely has it does have an impact. We'll talk about some of the standout performers in just a moment. Alfie, Carl Walker-Peters being dropped was the headline news. I think he kind of said it was tactical, but do you think that might be something to do with his contract? Because I know that he spoke about it in a press conference this week. He's definitely off by the looks of things.
Yeah, I mean, look, what he said in the build-up to the match was that Carl Walker-Peters is not signing a contract now. He obviously hopes that changes before the end of the season, but it doesn't sound too likely, especially if they don't finish in the Premier League again. It was then reported by an outlet somewhere else that talks had broken down. It was exaggerated. I felt that it was exaggerated a little bit. Ultimately, they've been talking over the summer, and just clearly they decided that it can't be done. I don't think that was the reason he was left out of the team, but obviously it wouldn't be a massive surprise. The thing that Russell Martin said after Everton on Wednesday was that, or on Tuesday rather, that he did have something to think about, and the players who played, gave him a lot to consider, and ultimately did end up starting Charlie Taylor, did end up starting Ryan Fraser, so clearly it wasn't lip service. It surprised me. I don't think Carl Walker-Peters has been bad this season. I saw people in the responses saying that he had been. I don't agree with that. I think in the first couple of games he was a major outlet. But Charlie Taylor offers something a little bit different, maybe with set pieces, defending them, which obviously it's 5 goals now. It's been the bane, or is it 4? It's been the bane of them, and taking them as well, balls into the box. And obviously we saw that at Everton, and he was involved a lot in the first sort of 25 minutes. I mean, the first half, the real only chances Ipswich had, in my opinion, were from down the right. It seemed to be they were getting behind him, they were crossing the ball in, but he was in a battle the entire game. I don't think he necessarily lost that battle with Wes Burns, so it wouldn't surprise me if he kept his place next week. But it just seems a big call to take Carl Walker-Peters out of the team. And Glen, I think, might have tweeted before the game that he did that against Ipswich last season as well, the only time in the entire season.
Which he says is a coincidence.
Yeah, maybe it is, but maybe there's something he just doesn't like about Wes Burns. He wanted someone a bit bigger. I don't know, but yeah, it did surprise me that.
I think did you touch on it last week, Steve? Did you mention it before? We talked about that balance about the left-footed left back, and obviously they weren't expecting Carl Walker-Peters to be here, which is why we signed a right back. And actually, he's kind of hit the ground running, and he's difficult to take out the team now. So I know, Steve, you sort of mentioned about that balance, and by and large, it kind of worked.
Yeah, I think so. To the extent that actually come the Bournemouth game, unless someone picks up a knock in training, I would imagine we'll go same again. Because the balance was a lot better. As Alfie said, Ipswich put a lot down their right hand side, our left. But by and large, Taylor stood up to it. And I think just having that natural balance and knowing and being able to go around the outside just offers so much more benefit. And also, as I mentioned last week, that the Man United game, Amad Diallo had, like, the ball was switched out to him on that side so many times throughout that game, first and second half, and he had 20-30 yards of space because Walker-Peters had tucked in, because he's naturally right-sided, and therefore he's just kind of attuned to thinking that he needs to be towards that side of the pitch. And yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't give us the balance that we need. It was kind of fine for a few games last season in the Championship against Championship players, but when you're coming up against Premier League opposition, you're going to come a cropper if you've got something that's that kind of emphasised where you're lacking the shape and balance, I think.
I think it's a problem, though, going forward if they can't fit Carl Walker-Peters and Sugawara into the team, because clearly Sugawara has been one of the biggest threats down the right. But I just feel that, as long as there hasn't been some kind of serious breakdown in relationship, I just feel you can't name a team without Carl Walker-Peters regularly, in my opinion.
It just seems inconceivable compared to where we were like last year, and the fact that he stuck around and helped. Glenn, we need to talk about Aaron Ramsdale. It's been a good week for the goalkeeping unit, really. We'll get on to penalty shootouts later, but it certainly kept us in the game with a number of decent saves. And did you see the knee slide after the goal as well? That was nice.
Yeah, I mean, he's always been one to get very involved with his own supporters, and trying to. I think he bit off more than he could chew, trying to get noise out of the chapel in the second half. But yeah. I mean, he's. We said it all last week. Really, he's an excellent goalkeeper, and he's a big personality, and he will win us games this season. And he very nearly won the one for us on Saturday. Again, not the goal, not his fault. And picking up on Paul's point, he 100% would have saved it. He'd seen it all the way. I mean, that's an issue. Why did he see it all the way? There should have been someone in front of it closing down the. But he saw it all the way, and he was already across. But the deflection just took it a yard further than he could possibly get to. So no, I thought he had another excellent game, and it's just a shame that we're to various degrees letting him down in these games at the moment. But as I said last week, as long as he keeps his head up and we can see progress. Another thing that was interesting I thought about yesterday's game is that we were a lot more pragmatic. There were quite a few long balls played out by Ramsdale, and it highlighted the good and the bad of it, because if a long ball out is something for Ryan Fraser to compete in the air for, then it's probably not going to end too well. And that happened a few times. A few times he picked out Cameron Archer's feet, and he kind of didn't really show great ability at holding off defenders and holding the ball up, because he had the guy with the long hair, Greaves. He had him right up his backside most of the time. But
that looked like pre-rehearsed moves. That looked like a very specific move where he was just taking a touch, and a midfield runner would be alongside to collect that ball to then move one way or the other.
Yeah, it was the idea was I think the one-touch layoff to Fernandez, and then you move forward. But and they carried on doing that when Ross Stewart came on. And we'll probably get onto this later. I know everyone's just going to say, well, Ross Stewart gave away a free kick, but if you focus on that one negative thing, then but I thought he had a decent game when he came on, and the ball started to stick up front a little bit more. So that's an interesting one for some games. I think where he might, if he can keep himself fit, obviously he might be preferred as an option to try and get us further up the pitch, sort of thing. But no, I think back to Ramsdale. It's just repeating what we said already. He's an amazing signing for us at this level. I still don't know why he did it. I hope he doesn't regret it by the end of the season.
I was going to say a big moment for him, Glenn. That potentially he gave the ball away in the first sort of 10 or 15 minutes on the edge of his box, but he then got down to make the save immediately after. And I was about to say, it's a big moment for him, but I don't think his head would have gone, really. I think he would have been able to bounce back from that, coming from that. But all the same, it was a big moment.
We're just expecting his head to go, aren't we? Because that's what we're used to. Paul, I guess the $6 million question is where the goals are going to come from. Do you think we've got enough? Ross Stewart obviously coming in.
Costs more than 6 million, mate, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Well, I don't kind of want to be negative, but I do worry that we've got a championship front line in the Premier League, and ultimately, there are teams, you've got to support them and give them as much encouragement as possible. But did I see Diaz do anything? I don't think I did. Archer, I think his head went after he missed. And then, when what I really wanted to see, when Armstrong came on, I just thought, right, hair about the place for 20 minutes. Just go for it. Doesn't matter much. You wear yourself out. But he just looked lost. He just looked like disinterested. And I fear that. I'm not sure he did.
Not sure he touched the ball in 10, 15 minutes that he was on.
But just charge about the place, show a lot of, from not only from a spectator's point of view, but also from your own, just get in there and get stuck in, get a booking. Who cares? Just go for it. But I just can't see where, as Glenn said earlier, I just can't see us getting more than 1, if not 2 goals in a game. And at this level, it's not like last season when we were 2-3 down against Huddersfield and we came back and roared back and got 5. It's just not going to happen this year. We've got to take our chances, and if we don't take them, we're going to be, holding on at the end like we were.
Have you seen enough of a player in Cameron Archer, though? Do you think it's just a case of once he gets a goal in the league, there's going to be the rest will come?
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to be negative about one of our players, but I just don't see it. I think Glenn said Ross Stewart came on and the ball suddenly started to stick, and then we're up the pitch. I just kept thinking, just get up the pitch. Stop them coming onto us, because it felt like when we had the ball in our own 18-yard line, they just sat and waited for us to make a mistake. Whereas when you get up the pitch, they've got to have to think about, are we going to get turned? Where are we going to go? And I just felt that, the front three charge about the place like their front three did for a while. Just, get on with it. But Diaz didn't look interested. He just seemed to hang about on the other side of the pitch. And yet, poor old Fernandez, and in the middle, was running his heart out, wasn't he? Same with Downs, they were getting in there, they were charging about, and I'd like to see just a bit more of that. And if you show commitment, then everybody will be behind you, even if you don't score. But his head went, Archer, and I just felt, perhaps, I don't know what you do. You're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't. You've got to give him the next game to say, come on, we believe in you. But if he does it again, it's twist or stick, isn't it?
Yeah. There's not a lot of people waiting to come in either. Alfie, I just want to get your thoughts on that midfield 3 as well, with Downs, Fernandez, Lallana. We talked a lot about the midfield this season, but it seems like we might have actually, got the 3 that we need now.
Yeah, I think they probably have, to be fair. And maybe a week ago, you'd have said that midfield 3 could have been Flynn, Downs, Leslie, and obviously Matty Fernandez, who I totally agree with Paul, by the way. He's a massive upgrade on what they had in that position last season. Particularly Charlie, but everybody else as well, in my opinion. He looks fantastic. But Adam Lallana's the metronome. I mean, he's the one that makes it all tick. And the fact that he's actually, setting up goals, and he's I saw people frustrated about the fact he came off after 60 odd minutes or wherever it was. And he clearly can't do 90 minutes. And Russell Meyer said that to me on Tuesday night at Goodison Park. I asked him, is he ready to start a Premier League game? And he said, yeah, he is ready. Suggested he will, but he can't do 90. And that's a problem for Saints at the moment, because although, Steve, you said that you didn't feel that Ipswich did anything really to get back into the game towards the end of the game, the way they played did change. And when Adam Lallana came off, you could see actually that Ipswich had almost double the amount of time they had on the ball. The sort of pressing intensity for Southampton totally changed. And then naturally, when you're protecting a 1-goal lead, that Southampton defensive line starts to come back and back. And they were making much more long balls in the last 15, 20 minutes, like Glen alluded to. And I just feel that players like Lallana, they're calm, they're composed. They've obviously, you heard him talk at Goodison Park all throughout the match, how loud he is, instructing the young players around him, just making sure everyone keeps going, keeps doing the right thing. So you lose him, you do lose a lot. So they've got to find a replacement for him. But 100% next game, you have to start Flynn, Downs and Lallana, and Matty Fernandez. It's a no-brainer.
It's just strange that we're sat here talking about Adam Lallana being one of the best signings. At the time we were like, he's coming in, he's going to come off the bench, and here we are like, well, we can't possibly go into a match without him.
It's incredible. It's a statistic that me and George were talking about on the way back from Goodison Park, and he tweeted yesterday. I think Tyler Dibbling was 3 or 4 months old when Adam Lallana made his debut for Southampton, and now they're the 2 best players in the team. And what a player to have instructing Tyler on the pitch.
We honestly thought back in the summer, Glenn, that maybe Brereton Diaz was going to be the one that we would get excited about, and it's just not really happened, is it?
No, not at all. what's he good at? When he had his spell with Sheffield United, when he had his spell at Sheffield United at the end of last season, you kind of looked at it: 6 goals in 14 games, playing for a terrible team. He must have something about him, and you see him, and he's a big lad, and he's got this sort of like bustling style, usually cutting in off the left wing and in it with his right foot. But he's, we were always going to be a little bit struggling up front because we were, if you look at the players we had Ross Stewart, who's been injured for 2 years, Adam Armstrong, who previously had always struggled at this level and has struggled again this season. So I was hoping that Brereton Diaz would certainly add something. It was a little bit higher level than what we had, but at the moment he hasn't. And losing your place to Ryan Fraser, who is not fit and he's not really a goal threat himself, is a little bit of a worry. I think he should be taking that as a bit of a wake up call. And I think Ryan Fraser played because he works incredibly hard defensively. And that was something that also went when Ryan Fraser went off, because he went off in the same substitution as Lallana going off. So it wasn't just losing Lallana, it was losing Fraser as well down that left-hand side, because Brereton Diaz doesn't work nearly as hard. He gets involved when the ball's in the vicinity, but he's just not shown enough for me. I think there is more to come, but it's the player's got to make it happen. And it looks to me like he's kind of coasting through games at the moment, and we need more from him than what he's shown so far.
I can think of one at Newcastle, which I think was blocked. Has he had a shot from inside the box this season?
Well, he had the header at Newcastle that he blazed over as well shortly after the red card,
yeah, that's right,
which would have been the ultimate in trolling if he'd scored that.
In the second half, he had that one that was blocked behind as well, and there was a rebound.
Yeah.
But has he had another one since? Because a lot of his goals for Sheffield United last season, it was basically just the ball popping up in an area inside the box. He was by far.
So he had one. So he had one yesterday where Fernandez, I think it was, cut it back to him, but he cut it back to him like at real pace. So it's quite a difficult one to control. And he's put it. It's probably 2 feet wide and 3 feet over. Decent effort, but one you'd like him to get on target. At the end of the day, with that one, if he got it on target, he probably scores, because I don't think the keeper would have seen it.
Yeah. Let's try and finish on a positive. I know it's hard at times. Paul, we've been speaking every week about Tyler Dibbling and how brilliant he is, and he's winning Player of the Week every week. Let's hear your thoughts on him, and let's finish with a bit of a positive, because it was a great goal, and it's something to be really excited about.
Okay, there is one positive I think that we've learned as a team. We're getting a bit more savvy. I did like the fact that when Ramsdale went down at about 40 minutes in the first half for a bit of a tactical, 2 minutes, because we were getting a bit pressed. And I think that we're beginning to suss those kind of. I thought that was a good thing. Sit down, take a break, come back, result. So that was a definite positive. But Dibbling, great. He's 18 years old. Blimey, wish I was 18, but there you are. And I just thought, he had the crowd on his feet when he picked the ball up. I'm not being. He's 18. He did seem to fade a little bit, and he was doing his stretching exercises, wasn't he, for a few minutes when he got chopped down. So I think that he's a 70 minutes man at the moment. But what a great take, what a great goal. And the best thing, the most positive thing, I completely forgot about VAR. Jumped up with my son, celebrated. Didn't think to look at the linesman or the VAR or anything. I just thought, we're still back in the championship. We can celebrate the goal. And then I suddenly thought, shit, VAR. No, it's all right. It's okay. So that's a positive. We can celebrate that. But Dibbling, top marks. He's. I just hope we can keep him and he doesn't get his head turned and he suddenly turns. Stick with what he is. I think, good lad.
Stick with what you know. Anything else on Ipswich before we move on?
For me, right. Well, it's a point, and we're off the mark. We're running, we're going, we've scored. We could have won, we should have won. So let's take that into Bournemouth. They don't look that brilliant, Bournemouth. So let's hope we get
moved up a place.
Yeah,
that's staggering.
Yeah. I was impressed with Flynn Downs driving forward from midfield.
Captain as well.
Yeah, when we talk about the Everton game, Russell Martin said afterwards that there was a lack of intent to go forward at times in that game, and obviously it's a changed team and all that sort of stuff. But I found there was a bit of a lack of will to go forward at times, especially in the second half yesterday. And it only seemed to be when Downs had the ball that we were actually looking to go forward. Ryan Fraser, I've spoken about, he drives you. I don't think he took on the fullback once after the first couple of minutes. He waits till the fullback gets along. He goes forward, the fullback gets alongside him, and then he turns back, and we're back at the halfway line. So that is something that we do need to do a little bit more, is to actually try and commit defenders a little bit instead of having the first instinct of turning around and going backwards. We did that a little bit too much yesterday, but I was impressed with Flynn Downs for trying to drive forward with the ball. And Matty Fernandez, I thought was, I mean, everyone will talk about Dibbling because he scored. I thought Fernandez was our best player, because he just always looks to be positive when he's got it. And surprisingly, for a lad who's not that big, he's not afraid of getting stuck in either, which is why I think he will stay in the team. You know, when you've got a sort of like a young, slight of build player, there's always the there's always after 5 or 6 games there always seems to be this, well, let's take him out and give him a little break. But Fernandez seems to be made of quite strong stuff, so I can see him see him staying in unless he loses his form. But he does look like a very good player.
Paul, before we let you go, I just wanted to use this as an opportunity to mention a fans forum as such that we're planning. We're hoping to do this during the international break, so we can get you back on. We can get some other fans on as well. The idea is that we're going to do a 2-hour live stream, as many voices from across the Saints community as possible. So Patreons, people that watch the podcast, season ticket holders, fans that are abroad. We're all going to be there. Some other faces you might recognise as well. The idea is to hear from as many of you as possible. How you think the season's going, what you've made of the manager, what you made at the start, where the goals are going to come from, for example, where you think we're going to end up at the end of the season. The plan is to host that at the moment during the international break. So we'll do the live stream and the podcast episode, combine the two. So keep an eye on the socials for more details in the coming weeks. It's at Total Saints Pod on there. Thanks for joining us, Paul. Thank you for your sponsorship of TSP as well. And we'll catch up with you later in the season, if that's all right. Cheers, Paul.
Yeah, all good. Thank you.
Now, expectations were low heading to Everton in the Cup. I mean, it was never going to be a classic, so no surprise that it went to penalties. Alfie, you were there. There were a good few Saints fans too that made the journey, so fair play to anybody that went. 10 changes again for the Cup, but it was certainly a stronger 11 than the last round. And as it turns out, a few players staking claims and some getting minutes.
Yeah, I think unfortunately Glen's bankrupt now, isn't he? Buying 1,000 gold medals. I think it's 1,000.
I knew you'd remember that.
I mean, look, first things first. It is genuinely fair play to the 1,000 that are there on a Tuesday night. Obviously, I know that they're there in part because of getting away matches up, so they can get tickets for the better games. But ultimately, you've still got to get there. Still got to.
They might live a bit further up the country as well, of course.
Yeah, possibly. But it was a good effort on a Tuesday night, more than I expected. And they outsung the Everton fans the entire game. Obviously, that isn't particularly hard, and we got sort of a flavour as to why, because I thought Everton were fairly poor. I mean, some of them made 10 changes. We sort of predicted 11 or 10, didn't we? And obviously, we've mentioned the fact that Ryan Fraser and Charlie Taylor stayed in the team. It was a huge night for Harwood-Bellis, because ultimately he'd been dropped. He'd been dropped out of the team last weekend, and he came back in. I thought he was genuinely really good all night. Obviously, it's a brilliant header to score the goal. Then he took his penalty and scored it as well. So for him, with the armband, it was a great night for him. And yeah, I mean, also I really enjoyed the fact that it was Alex McCarthy's 150th appearance for Saints, and he ended up being a hero. I know, obviously, Steve and Glen probably maybe joke a little about the fact that he got nowhere near the first 5 penalties. His teammates gave him the chance to get near the 6th one, and he stopped it. But it was during the game he made a number of saves as well. It's Jesper Lindstrom, isn't it? Jesper Lindstrom for Everton. I mean, he was through on goal 1-on-1 twice. I can't believe he didn't put Everton home and away. There's obviously a reason they're the only team below Southampton in the league. So yeah, good night for a couple of the players coming back into the team, and I enjoyed my trip to Goodison Park. It's the worst press box in the country. There's no room at all, particularly for someone of my size, both length and width nowadays. But it's still a nice.
Think how Adam Blackmore gets on. He's a big lad, isn't he?
It's even worse for Adam, because where I'm sat, it's a fixed bench and it's just like a fixed platform, so you can squeeze in and out. But for Adam on the radio side, it's one of those pulley down ones, and he's admitted himself the pulley down bit doesn't really fit, so he's got all the radio gear on there. Once you're in for 90 minutes.
Well, I wasn't expecting to go down that route. Steve. I mean, it was a soft goal to concede, wasn't it? The header. Let's talk about
Standard.
that first. I mean, yeah. I think you mentioned before about the set pieces, and they're working on it every week, but it still seems to be a bit of an Achilles heel.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were a little bit unfortunate with the Everton one because it is just pure sort of chaos where they've somehow managed to keep the ball in play. It looked for all money that it was just going to drift out of play for another corner. But they've somehow managed to keep it alive, and Cour, credit to him, has managed to score a goal without punching it in for once.
Yeah, well done, mate.
But yeah, I mean, when the ball's kind of pinging around in your penalty area in that sort of scenario, it's a little bit, you're kind of in the lap of the gods, aren't you? And it's just not falling our way this time. But I don't really know what else we can do in that specific incident. I think it's just happening to be in the right place, because I think when McCarthy comes for the cross and gets a bit on it, but probably not quite enough, all of a sudden the second phase, when the ball's bouncing around like that, there's you can't really train for that. I don't think. It's just a case of instinct takes over, and do you just happen to be in the right place when the ball falls for you? And unfortunately we weren't. But at least we weren't behind for very long, because that's obviously something that had kind of come up in previous games at Brentford and against Man United, where kind of that sort of bad reaction to adversity type thing, where as soon as we go behind, we kind of lose our heads for a while. And fair play, that didn't happen on Tuesday. We were straight back on it, and I mean, what was it? About 10 minutes that within 10 minutes that we'd equalised.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely ridiculous challenge from their fullback, but it's one of those ones that quite often goes unpunished, doesn't it? When either a winger's got a cross in or a striker's got a shot away, and it seems like defenders feel like they've got carte blanche just to wipe the guy out. So yeah, credit to the ref for blowing up and booking him for it. And yeah, I mean, Everton's set piece defending is somehow worse than ours statistically. So yeah, I guess it was probably no huge surprise to the analysts. Sorry, where'd that come from? Analysts that that both the goals came from set pieces. But yeah, I mean, problem was, I think Russell Martin said in his post-match interview, didn't he, that he thought we didn't really progress forwards enough, especially second half. We had a lot of the ball, but didn't really do a huge amount with it, which was kind of fine because it got Everton's fans frustrated. I mean, their reaction to that substitution was both hilarious and entirely justified. Taking off their only centre forward to bring a left wing back on, who then subsequently is the only player to miss in the shootout. But
just one thing there, Steve. You talk about the go forward thing. If you look at our goal, I know it's a free kick in the end, but it was the only time that Harwood-Bellis had the ball, passed it forward 35, 40 yards to Big Les. Big Les turned, played the ball through to Fraser. We're on the edge of their box, gets wiped out, gets the free kick, just from playing two forward passes with intent. And, we score from it. And, there's a lesson to be learned there, I feel. But,
good delivery as well. It's not often, Glenn, that we say that Everton were the better team, but I thought they kind of were on the night, but penalties it was.
No, they were shit.
Yeah,
they were absolute shit.
They had the better chances, but I thought they were pretty rubbish.
Their goalkeeper launching the ball 80 yards up the pitch, just such a throwback. I mean, I know it's Sean Dyche, and he's probably told him that, but my word, it's just so funny. I mean, just where we are with modern football and goalkeepers rolling the ball out and, trying to play football and all that stuff. And good old Sean Dyche with his chips and his gravy, just like smash the ball out the park. It was just funny. But when, Nathan Wood didn't have the best of games under the high ball, so you can see why they did it. But I think they would have probably done it anyway, regardless of who was playing. But no, I didn't think Everton were particularly good. But did anyone think we should have had a penalty in the last minute?
I saw you
Like,
write
when
about this,
Dibbling-
and it just kind of like
Yeah.
passed me by, really, because I think we just knew the whistle was going to go and it was going to be
I
penalty.
thought he got toe. I thought defender got a toe end on it.
Did you?
because they
I didn't
gave
think he
the
got anywhere near
corner,
it.
didn't they? He gave a corner, didn't he?
Yeah, he gave a corner. It was almost like I'm bottling this. You know, it's either a goal kick or a penalty.
Didn't seem to be many appeals from our players. I didn't think.
No, I as the actual penalty started, I was thinking, did I imagine that or what? Because it looked like a carbon copy of the Manchester United incident where Young went in to clear the ball and Dibbling took the extra touch and then went over. But it doesn't seem to be on any of the highlights packages to or the condensed 3 minutes of highlights or whatever, which is all they could get out of that game, to be fair. So I haven't seen it back, but yeah, that was a weird one.
But the penalties were good that followed.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yep.
Yeah, it was a bit like that England shootout in the World Cup where all our players looked supremely confident. And it's ironic considering the bollocks we made of the penalty we had against Manchester United, and then suddenly we've got 5 players who all look supremely confident, and their goalkeeper went 6, and their goalkeeper went the wrong way on every single one, apart from one. He got a fingertip to Ross Stewart's one, but other than that, it was all those penalties were very, very comprehensive, and it was. I knew Ashley Young would miss. I'm sure he's done it before in a big game.
I think he missed in the. Did he miss in the Euros in Ukraine when we lost to Italy? I think it was him and
he might have done.
Ashley Cole might have missed in that shootout. When Joe Hart got made to look a mug by Pirlo when he got Panenka.
But it was nice for McCarthy to go the right way for a change, because he not only was he going the wrong way, he was doing it really, really comprehensively as well. He
was diving
right
really early,
over.
which made it so easy for the takers.
Yeah, but he wasn't brilliant on Everton's goal, and he went the wrong way 5 times, but he comes out the hero, and he made a couple of other good saves.
Yeah, he made a couple of good saves.
Yeah, overall, that's what people are going to remember.
I guess the other thing, Alfie, is some of the players which were perhaps noticeable by their absence, like Sam Amo-Ameyaw, and we thought Bella Kotchap might come in, but that proved to be not the case.
Yeah, do you know what? I've not just seen the team sheet yesterday. Was Sam Amo named on the bench?
Yeah,
he was.
Okay. Oh, for yesterday.
Yeah, for yesterday. Yeah,
for yesterday. I don't know.
He's obviously played for them 21s on Friday evening, and obviously, like, the point is that he didn't come off the pitch on Tuesday, which I thought was a massive shame because I would have started him. But I do get the logic, and I think we even discussed it on the pod last week that ultimately he's going to want Ryan Fraser and Maxwell Cornet to play some minutes. And Maxwell Cornet, neither of them set the world alight, but Maxwell looked like he offered a bit. He looks like he's got something a little bit different, and he could probably be a useful player. Yeah, he could be a useful player this season. So I do understand the idea of just make sure those guys get the minutes. And Sam Amo is still 18. His development is going to continue. But it was a bit of a shame for me just because he's done so well at Cardiff, and I think he deserves the chance. I don't necessarily think that he's any worse than any of the guys who are playing, apart from obviously Tyler Dibbling, who's having an unbelievable form. And Bella Kotchap is, the answer that Russell Martin gave on him was straight to the point. It was almost like, can you please stop asking me? This is what's going on. And he just said quite simply, I'm paid to pick the team. If it goes wrong, I get sacked, and I haven't picked him. He's training well. He's an option, but I picked the team that I think is the best to perform, and I didn't pick Bella Kotchap this time. So clearly there's he doesn't see him as an option right now. He's clearly not involved in. He didn't even play for them 21s on Friday. Whether that was Armel's choice or Russell's choice, when 4 players play for the 21s, like Ryan Manning, Juan Larios, Sam Amo, and one more player, defensive player, played, Ronnie Edwards, and Armel didn't. So clearly he's not in the reckoning at the moment. So yeah, you could say that tells a lot. And same for Cornell, actually.
When is the draw, by the way? Do we know?
Wednesday evening after Liverpool West Ham Day.
Oh, we've got to wait that long. So we'll be hoping somewhere a bit closer to home, right?
Everton on a Tuesday night is an absolute nightmare draw. As I say, it's a good place to go and watch football, and as it's the last season, it adds a little bit more to it. But I do not want to do that again. Let's go somewhere.
Well, we're getting Liverpool away next round, aren't we?
Anything else from the cup game?
Well, what we'll say is going through the cup, I think, is a positive. I know that last time Saints got relegated, we obviously got to the semi-final, and the semi-final was ballsed up, unfortunately, if we're being totally honest. I mean, they probably wouldn't have had a chance against Newcastle anyway, but it wasn't managed correctly. And there is obviously the risk of you could lose players in these games, but with the size of the squads Saints have, I think they can continue to name rotated sides with big players in. And it's just a well-needed motivation boost. I think after the game, Russell Martin described the performance as brilliant, and he described it as brilliant again on Friday before the match against Ipswich. And no, I don't necessarily think it was brilliant, but it's just little bits of evidence that he can show the players and be like, look, you might have lost all the games this season, but you're doing this right, you did this right, you've got through in the cup here. So I think any win at this point Southampton can get is a real positive. So hopefully they can get a winnable tie on Wednesday and keep it going.
Let's just
useful players like like the next round, for example. You would maybe say, let's get 90 minutes out of Ross Stewart.
Yeah,
let's see if he can do it. So it's a game where you can do that without the massive repercussions that would follow in a Premier League game. So and maybe in the next round you can give Sam Amo a game, or it can be another game for Maxwell Cornet to get closer to full fitness. And I mean, it's interesting with the wingers because obviously no one's really put their hand up to say I'm the regular left-sided attacking player for this season.
Yeah.
So there is definitely an opening there for for the wingers who are not currently in the squad.
And a goal scorer. Let's do player of the week. This is the bit where the Tyler Dibbling bit. I think that's a given. We'll put him on the list when we do the poll. Steve, any others as well as Dibbling?
Lallana. I imagine all three of that starting midfield are going to be options there as well. But Lallana I thought was superb for the 58 minutes I think he played.
Glenn?
Matt Fernandes. Matt Fernandes. I thought he played well when he came on against Everton. Obviously scored the first penalty. I don't know who was down to take the penalty yesterday, if we got one. It wouldn't have surprised me if Fernandes has been made the new penalty taker as he stepped up first against Everton. But no, I thought he had a really good game yesterday. And in addition to a decent half against Everton.
Any other names for the list, Alfie?
Oh, yeah, I think the top three have been named, and you could say Flynn Downs, but I would probably say Aaron Ramsdale again, just because of the number of saves, and also the one that should have really been a match-winning save with the second to last kick of the game. So, yeah.
Fair dues. Now it's the game that's 30 miles down the road, but certainly not a derby. Bournemouth next in the Premier League. Monday night football as well, under the lights. Steve, what have you made to their start of the season so far? I mean, they've already played Liverpool, Chelsea, and Newcastle, so they've had a few tough games, but they had that win at Everton as well.
They've been pretty hit and miss, haven't they? I mean, tough fixtures on paper, although I think on grass, actually, some of their games have been a little bit easier than you would have expected. That Newcastle one, they probably should have won that game. Didn't. I mean, that's a tale well told this season for a lot of teams actually against Newcastle, because Spurs should have beaten them, Wolves should have beaten them, we should have beaten them. So and Fulham are the only team that actually have got the job done yesterday. So well done to them. But Bournemouth, look, I mean, obviously losing your focal point and top goal scorer on the eve of the season is not ideal. And they've spent massive money for a club of their size on the replacement in the hope that he just slots in. But I mean, he's slotted in and missed a penalty so far. So I mean, I don't really know whether this guy's going to be any good, whether he's even up and running, and I don't think you can really judge him on a 90-minute performance. Well, he probably even didn't even play 90 minutes at Anfield yesterday when they were 3-0 down at half time and the game was already done. So they've not had a great start in terms of results, but I suspect performances have probably been okay from what I gather. I certainly don't think there's been an awful lot of dissent in the ranks down there. Did make me laugh. A good mate of mine who's a Bournemouth fan went to the Everton game and he left with 10 minutes to go. So yeah, so he missed all three of their goals. The comeback of all comebacks.
And that would have been one of the all-time great away days, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
that would have been one of the all-time greats.
Well, it is the greatest Premier League comeback of all time, isn't it? In terms of numbers and the disadvantage they were at. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean the only later turnaround I think was that Spurs one against Leicester a couple of years ago, but they were only 1-0 down, and scored twice in like 94 and 96 or something stupid. But yeah, I mean it's just peak Everton, wasn't it? But Bournemouth have always got a threat. They're very fast in kind of all areas. That's their kind of big thing, is that all of their players have got pace, probably apart from Lewis Cook. But then in his position, he doesn't need to have any pace. One really interesting signing for them is the keeper, Kepa, from Chelsea. I'm fascinated by that because I kind of thought that Neto was absolutely fine. And he was their captain for a lot of last season. So not quite sure what the sort of dynamics of that move were all about.
Did he go to Arsenal in the end?
Yeah, yes, he did. Yeah, so he was. Yeah. He's gone into Arsenal as Raya's backup.
Did we have to wait for that deal to be done before the Ramsdale one went through?
Yeah, theoretically, yeah. I mean, the Ramsdale one was announced a good 6 or 7 hours before in the end, but. I think it was a case of, well, this deal's going to get done. It's just a case of getting all the paperwork sorted. So let's just get it.
Well, Steve, I had Neto in my fantasy team last season, and towards the end of the season, he dropped a couple of clangers and then got dropped for Mark Travers. So I just wonder if that sort of maybe burnt some bridges there, and he saw the opportunity to go to Arsenal and took it.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, he's not. Well, I guess it's probably better to be not playing at Arsenal than not playing at Bournemouth.
Just about.
So I mean, he'll get cup games, so it's not a complete sort of write off of a season, is it? But can't be an awful lot of fun when you know you're never going to play a competitive game unless the guy in front of you either does something stupid and gets himself sent off or gets injured.
Mm-hmm. Do we stick with the same team, Alfie? I know. Do you think Will Smallbone will be back? He's going to find it difficult to get back into the side the way they're going at the moment. But would you go with the same 11?
Yeah, maybe Steve and Glen would be slightly better to us just because they've been in the atmosphere, felt the context of how the game went. I've only watched it clips back on a laptop. But I mean, Will Smallbone, he might well be back fit, but he's certainly been back in the starting 11. Obviously, he's got some work to do to get back into the side. I could see this same 11 again, but again, that Glenn mentioned the left-hand side wingers not nailed down, so it wouldn't surprise me to see a change there. And I know Paul was obviously trying not to be negative, to his credit, but doesn't believe in Cameron Archer. The chances that he's missed are now starting to rack up, but I still see something of a player in there, the way he moves with.
I thought he played well.
I thought he played well yesterday. So I think he's still
other than the finish.
Yeah, he still play. I mean, it's unlucky. He did so well, in my opinion, for taking round the keeper and should have scored. But the second chance that Glenn mentioned, where it just sort of, I think it comes to him in the box and he has a chance to, and he just hits it straight at the keeper. That's the bad one. So I would keep that. The back four doesn't need to change unless he decides to bring Carly, but I'd probably keep the same back four. And obviously midfield three is the same. So yeah, you could see maybe one change on the left. The battle for me is going to be that position, the left back, is going to be key because Antoine Semenyo has sort of stepped up into their sort of Dominic Solanke talisman type player. I think Evan Nilsson actually looks like a decent player, even though he hasn't got any goals. But Semenyo is the one who's been a real threat, sort of getting in behind teams. So whoever does play left back will have to be one of the top performers to keep him quiet.
Do you think that might be the only change, Glenn?
I actually don't think they will change anything. I think Ryan Fraser will play, probably because, especially because it is Bournemouth.
Yeah,
and he's going to get absolutely mullered off of the 9,000 home fans or whatever massive number they have down there. Yeah, he will. So no, I mean, I can't see there being any changes. But if there is, I mean, you don't know how Fraser's going to react to playing that 60 minutes. As long as he's fit, I'm sure he'll start. If he doesn't, then probably Brereton Diaz will start. But I know Cornet's left-footed, isn't he? But he tends to play off the right.
Plays off the
right. So maybe he'll come into things. I'm sure the only reason he didn't come on as a sub, when Dibbling went off yesterday, was simply because of the situation of the game. You want a player who's got probably a little bit more defensive responsibility. Thought he could have brought Kyle on actually and stuck him in front of Sugawara, but no, that wasn't the reason why we eventually let a goal in. By the way, but no, I agree with what the lads were saying earlier on about Bournemouth. I watched virtually all 90 minutes of their home game against Chelsea when they were very unfortunate to lose 1-0. I thought they were the better side, if anything, in that game. But they did struggle up front. But they do. The pace is quite frightening that they with the likes of Semenyo, Cliver, Tavernier, even Sinistera when he comes on. They've got some very good direct players in the attacking positions, and that's something we're going to have to deal with, whether we obviously defend one-on-one against these guys or cut it off at source. Lewis Cook makes the team tick, so that's the job for probably Downs and Lallana in there is to stop him. I like the left back as well, Kirkes. He looks a decent player, and we know what Kepa's like from his Chelsea days. He can either be brilliant, where he looks like the best goalkeeper in the world, or he can be an absolute clown. So, and that's the reason why he's not getting a game at Chelsea, because his inconsistency is there. And I noticed he was on the bench on Saturday, but let's not be silly. If we see, let's give David Brooks a decent reception if he comes on, because
he's fit again now.
He's done nothing wrong. Yeah, he's unused sub at the weekend, and I think that's kind of been his remit for the last few games for Bournemouth. So so it'd be nice to see him again. Hopefully he doesn't do anything.
Forgotten about him, to be honest. Forgotten about him.
I should say mine. Sorry, Glenn, go on.
No, carry on, mate.
I was just going to say, change topic slightly, but I was going to say about Antoine Semenyo is obviously an interesting player for me. Because obviously he's a Bristol City Academy lad. I've watched a lot of him as a young winger. I've actually watched his younger brother play for Mangotsfield United FC in a FA Youth Cup game against Eastleigh. I think he now plays for Eastleigh, when he was 15, 16 years old. But anyway, he's obviously a Bristol lad, local lad. But what I find interesting is how sometimes players do just sort of step in and fill the breach when a big talisman leaves. I didn't look at Semenyo last season, and I didn't look at him when he left Bristol City as go on to be a Premier League talisman in the way that I thought Alex Scott might. His career's obviously slowed down a little bit because of injuries and whatnot. But as soon as Slanky's left, Semenyo he just seems he looks bigger, he looks taller, his chest out a bit more. He wants to be the guy, which I just find interesting that players can do that when someone leaves and just sort of step in.
The manager's going to miss the game as well, I think I read today. Did he get a yellow card for arguing with the officials? So he's going to be in the stands, the Bournemouth manager.
He's already racked up enough bookings for a suspension. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, although I think they're going to appeal.
One came after the eyes of the handball, didn't it? So the who was it?
Yeah,
Utara.
Well, it was the game against Chelsea, the one I was referring to earlier on, where there was something like 19 bookings or something ridiculous like that. It broke the record, and he was one of them. And I think two of the other people with the coaching staff got booked as well. It's just one of those ridiculous games. I can't remember who the referee was, but Paul Tierney, perhaps, completely lost control of the game. He started booking people for stupid things.
He was the fourth official yesterday, I think. Whoever it was the fourth official yesterday, because there was definitely a conversation about that I heard.
Yeah, he started booking people for stupid things, and then he had to keep on doing it. And instead of taking stock and going, well, this is ridiculous, and then he totally bottled giving a second yellow to Cucurella from Chelsea, who did a foul that would have got everybody.
He always deserves one.
Yeah, he always deserves one just for that hair alone. And so I could see why the Bournemouth manager got himself in a bit of a state about the way that game was officiated, because it was terrible, and of course they lost in the last minute, so that's not going to help either.
Well, he may or may not be on the touchline.
Did we go to Bournemouth winless in the last Premier League season, or had we won a game by that point?
We'd beaten Chelsea early doors.
That's right, we did in August. Romeo Lavia scored. Yeah, because I remember we went to
and Leicester actually. In fact,
oh, there you go. We went to Dean Court a couple of years ago. It felt like it was on sort of. By the way, I'm not saying that Russell Mine is, but it felt like Ralph Hasenhüttl was on his last legs. We went to that Bournemouth match, remember, and then won it 1-0, playing sort of terrible football. Jay Adams scored the only goal. But I remember thinking, that could be a turning point in the season. Obviously, didn't end up being that one.
Well, let's hope so. Should we do score predictions? Just to let you know, we had 10 correct score predictions from the Patreon League this week. Lots of movement on the leaderboard, which we'll obviously share on the socials. Glenn, can I get a score prediction from you, please?
Oh, what's the point? What is the point? I'm gonna manifest again, and I'm gonna manifest us winning 2-1.
Okay, are you manifesting as well, Steve?
That's it.
No, we have got a good record down there, but we've always gone down there as the favourites. I think this must be the first time that we'll go down there very much as the inferior team on paper. So yeah, I think if we get out with a draw, then I think everybody will be pretty happy. Take a 1-1 again. That'd be right.
Again. Alfie, shorter journey for you as well, which must be nice.
Yeah, it'd be nice. It's Monday night as well, like we say, so that's interesting. Have a weekend off, which would be nice. I was seconds from a correct score with my 1-0, which I didn't actually believe in, but went because Steve went for a 2-1. Thought that was taken away from me. So I'm a little bit disappointed about that. I haven't thought about this at all, and I just think that it's not a derby at all, but I think Bournemouth fans think it is, and they're going to make it a good atmosphere. And they're going to smell blood, definitely, like Steve suggested. They're going to think that Saints are going into them as the weaker side. So I think that'll make for an interesting dynamic. But I don't want to back against the point again, because I think these are the games you have to get something. So I'll just say a 2-2 draw.
A 2-2 draw, right. If you're watching live, don't forget to stick your comments, stick your score predictions into the comments, and we'll share a few of those. The women's team lost at home today against Blackburn. Steve, you saw this. They stream it on YouTube, which I hadn't realised, and they're doing that for a few games this year.
Yes, so I think it's part of a new TV deal that they've reached for both the WSL and the Championship now, because they've had this change of sort of ownership structure of the league and who's running it and this sort of thing. It's now run by a separate company rather than the FA themselves. So there's a deal whereby basically I think every game is available on YouTube. With select games being on, I think in the Super League, there's select games that are on Sky and some that are going to be on BBC. And I believe there's going to be a handful of games from the Championship on the BBC Red Button at various points this season. I believe the derby against Pompey, the actual derby.
The derby
against yes, against Pompey in 3 weeks' time, I think, is going to be on the Red Button. So yeah, look out for that. But yeah, I was able to watch the game on YouTube this afternoon, and I mean, it's kind of frustrating to kind of point this out, but it's one of those things where, like, we've seen for the last 15 months or so since Russell Martin has been Saints manager, a lot of kind of noise on social media, on forums, and just talking to people at games and things like that, where people say that, oh, the football's boring and Russell Martin's style is pass. Once you get up the field, let's pass it back and recycle possession and just take the fun out of everything. Now, what I would say to people that have that opinion is go back because obviously it's on YouTube, so you'll be able to go back and rewatch this. Watch the game from this afternoon, especially the second half, but fairly large portions of the first as well. And what the Saints women's team put out today was that style of football that they think the men's team play. Right. And it will massively change. It should change people's opinions on what the men's team are doing. They've got a bit of a problem, I think, with the women's team this season, whereby, and we identified this a few weeks back, where basically their two leading scorers from last season, who got 16 of their 39 league goals, have gone, and they've not been replaced. And yeah, today was a bit of a struggle against a Blackburn side who had no ambition to do anything sort of beyond their sort of defensive third of the pitch until they basically launched one ball over the top, dodgy header back to the keeper, and their attacker nipped in and lobbed it into the empty net. So, and then just struggled all afternoon to create anything. The rare occasions the ball went into the box, there was at most one player in there trying to connect with it. Their keeper's not been forced into a meaningful save all afternoon. It's unfortunate because the game last week at Sunderland scored 3 goals in the second half and looked like they'd kind of given themselves that little kickstart. But perhaps it's a reflection on the level of the opposition. Maybe Sunderland are going to be quite bad this year. So yeah, disappointing to lose that 1-0. But they've got a chance to put it right next week against Sheffield United, who have
back at St Mary's again.
Yeah, back at St Mary's again. Who have started with no points from 3 games. So they're a side that again you have to be looking at beating if you think you're going to be in any sort of competition for that one promotion spot.
Yeah, tough. Is there anything else from the week that we've forgotten? Anything? I think we've covered quite a bit tonight.
Yeah, I think the only thing to cover is the fact this will be the first, hopefully successful live broadcast of Total Saints podcast from Albania. Hence why the eagle-eyed viewers will have noticed the background behind me.
Can you say why you're there and what you're doing?
I can, yeah. So, I mean, this is obviously relevant to Saints, but I'm out here with the British Army, watching them do a ship-to-shore landing from a big vessel. They're moving loads of gear like Foxhound armoured vehicles and ammunition, big trucks, petrol tanks, landing them on beach, establishing a beachhead, and then setting it up as if it were a beach landing in a conflict, ready for the forces behind them to push on into the land. So it's completely different to what I've been used to. But yeah, I'm out in Albania until Tuesday evening, hence why I've not been at the game. And hopefully this podcast has been all right, because I can see that I'm buffering a little bit here and there, so hopefully it hasn't been too bad.
No, it's been fine. I was going to say the Wi-Fi has been holding up pretty well. So yeah, safe trip home. Is that something we can read? Is there going to be some stuff online about that then?
Yeah, there will be some stuff online. Yeah, writing a feature today. I've spoken to a lot of the guys who obviously run the regiments, and it's the reason I'm here. It's a Southampton-based regiment, so it's 17 Port Maritime Regiment based in Marchwood at the military port there, and they're the guys it's all their equipment. They're here with some reservists, and they're doing it. So it's quite interesting to watch it happen. I mean, you imagine it. You sort of imagine a beach landing, and you think of D-Day in Normandy, but they're getting there. I mean, they're literally sleeping under ponchos for the first night because they've not had time or the equipment to set up tents or anything like that. So they're on the floor in roll mats with ponchos above them, and thank God it's been lovely conditions. It was tipping down rain 2 days ago, so yeah. Hopefully not preparation for World War III, but an interesting insight.
I look forward to reading that. Before we finish, I did want to do a little shout out to Alfie Hookway, who got in touch. Alfie listens to TSP with his dad, Matt, every Tuesday night on the way to football training. And Alfie plays with Southgate Colts. They listen in Cornwall, and it's a little Tuesday night ritual. They're always in the car and they're listening to TSP, which is lovely. And thank you for sharing that with us. So we're going to say good luck to the Southgate Colts, and thanks to Alfie and thanks to Matt for getting in touch. If you do want to get in touch, share any stories with us, of course, you can do that on the social media platforms. You'll find us on pretty much all of them. It's at Total Saints Pod. And don't forget to check out the TSP merch store as well. It's shop.totalsaints.co.uk. You're also going to find us on Patreon. That's where you can support the podcast with a monthly contribution. You just have to visit patreon.com/Total Saints Podcast. And each of the tiers comes with some different perks, including weekly shout outs for patrons in the Francis Benali and the Mick Shannon tier. So thank you to Dave Melton, Andy Hollis, Anthony Thompson, Gavin Ford, James Harron, Nicky Nicholson, Southampton NY, Drew Dyer, and James Kibbe. They're all in our Francis Benali tier. And also thanks to Colt Baker, Dave Ernsberger, Ed Busy, Nick Higston, Phil Cook, Nick Reed, Paul Stewart, Phil Horstrup, Matt Hall, Mark Littlewood, Mike Etheridge, and James Bobin. They're all in our Mick Shannon tier. Thank you to Paul Castle Associates. We had Paul on earlier on tonight. Thank you to Steamtown Brewery as well for sponsoring TSP this season. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you, Alfie. Safe trip home. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you again, I believe, Wednesday.